I was in the zone. All right, yeah, here we are. Chad's obviously on vacation again, so it's just going to be Yanko and I doing this episode. He's out in Australia with Rush showing him the bush. Whatever you take from that, you'll take from that. And then you
sounds hot, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it does sound, and it probably is a little bit warm where they are. And then you're joining up with him in Melbourne, and you guys will handle an episode from there.
Yeah, supposedly, unless Chad decides to, go on vacation again, as you put it, Jason. He's somewhere in Australia, right?
Again,
allegedly having a good time. If Chad is capable of that at all, but yeah, we just didn't feel like really going for any guests for this one. I think we'll just focus on some of the bigger news and just wrapping up Bucharest, I guess, since both you and me were there witnessing it live.
Yeah, I know, and I guess that's where we should start, because I know you and I were just laughing too. I don't have any crazy fucking detail. Like I'm almost like, what fucking happened at Bucharest? I think I'm still fucking exhausted.
But did you even what did you do? You've had a day at home. Yeah. And now we're talking about it.
Yeah, I got home Monday night, and then Tuesday woke up, played some video games, did some chores around the house, caught up on some things, hung out with the kid most of the day, and then went out to dinner, and now I'm here. I woke up today, did some chores, and now I'm talking Counter-Strike.
How do you get to play video games at home?
We had
servants. Or nannies, whatever you call them.
Yeah, my mom came over yesterday afternoon and hung out with the baby until nap. So I got some video game time there. She was like, "Oh yeah, go take a nap if you need to. Go do some work." And I was like, "I think I'll go play video games for 2 hours." So yeah, I went and did that.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess Bucharest. Here it's been amazing. It's been an amazing day. I spent the whole day outside. It was 25 degrees. I don't know what it is in your Mickey Mouse numbers. It was great. First good day of the year. Yeah. It was nice. And now I'm here. Bucharest. Well, I guess, Falcons going out with a bang against all odds. Considering how their tournament started, being humiliated in the first 2 days. Yeah. I mean, sure, in hindsight, the complexity loss maybe doesn't look as bad as it initially did, right? Because Complexity ended up in 4th place. Yep. But the Gamer Legion won, getting 3 rounds over 2 maps. I mean, that just was embarrassing, a word we used a lot for PGL. But after that, man, I mean, talk about a turnaround. Just what was it in the end? 6 matches in a row, 5 best of 3s and a best of 5, and it seemed like they got better with each and every game they played.
Well, and I think too, if you look at the other side, the G2 run, which was so clean, even Falcons after they turned it around, all but one of their series was 3 maps. Every single series they lost a map, they got tested. I was surprised at how good they looked in terms of teamwork and cohesion. Everyone, the whole conversation of them coming in, knowing the Monacy move was happening. How are the players internally going to react? How's Degster going to feel? Tess's with the Kiyosuke rumor coming out at the worst moment, and they looked like they didn't give a fuck. They looked like they just played really good Counter-Strike and had been communicating really well, not making a lot of mistakes, especially in the grand final. They played post plants so fucking perfect. So I thought Falcons looked awesome, and it just continues the turnaround that we've started seeing from them since Nico joined the team.
Yeah, I think this is without a doubt the best they've looked. I think they've looked better than in Cluj, even, where they also had their one good result this year, losing in the final to Mongolz. And I think for me, it's just when you watch them play, right, it makes sense, the things they're trying to do and the way they're trying to play. It really does make a lot of sense. And sure, you can talk about the first 2 days, but if you look at just the games after that, especially some of the T sides on maps like Ancient, where they had to sort of come back on against the Mongolz in that 2-2 game in the decider and win it. I don't know I think maybe even it went to overtime.
Yeah, it did. I think that their map was double overtime or single overtime.
Yeah, against FaZe, they had a great T side, great performance against G2 as well. So really solid on that map. And I think for me, it's always, in that sense, the eye test, which doesn't really look great for some of the other teams. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I think that's what gives you confidence if you're a Falcons fan, right? What you said, they definitely seem to have clicked in some of these mid rounds, and then post-plan situations, there were a couple of rounds. I mean, from the game against FaZe, I know I did one at the desk, when they're slowly just sort of baiting Brokey's shot outside of cave, then Kixen spams him through wood from the outside while Tessis is baiting the shot. All the while, Dexter is covering from Rap with the AWP, the other side of side. It was just, looking clinical for them in a lot of these situations. Leading against FaZe, probably should have won that game 2-0 if it weren't for that one Kerrigan Tech 9 round. Then it goes into a third map. They have a great first half. All of a sudden, they're behind because they lose pistol in the first gun round. And, just mentally being able to overcome that too, I think is no easy feat. And they didn't do it by sort of YOLOing it and calling some rushes or pops or I don't know what. They did it by playing default, playing a little bit slower, sort of taking their time, giving the players a chance to make plays. And they did, all across the board.
Dude, Tess's was awesome for them this event, I felt like. I felt like he probably hasn't gotten as much recognition, but I thought he played so well for them in most games. And even on Ancient, specifically on Ancient, I remember watching him, the way he would challenge B Ramp and be that more active, aggressive lurk style when it was called upon. I thought he did an excellent job for that. So, I mean, that was cool to see. But that's a complete team, which was crazy coming into this event. I thought it would be a little bit more scattered. I thought it would feel a little bit more disorganized, but they've clearly put some fucking work in. And it makes sense when you see that Nico interview too, where he's just like, we came into this event working hard to do good here. And he gave this interview after the first two losses. And then you could see all the things they'd obviously been working on, had obviously been getting better. So that was sick.
Yeah, and Magus was saying the same thing after their win against Pain or maybe their second win. I don't know. He was saying, we just needed to sort of be more patient in games. We need to take it a little bit slower, trust each other, play together, not be too individualistic. And then in their wins later on, you could see that, right? You could see exactly that and how they were really good at those things. And I think also something that, I don't know, I don't want to say misrepresented, but I think there's a big difference between, the Monacy thing and then this whole Kyosuke thing. It's nowhere near the same in terms of
the level of credibility that it's going to happen.
The seriousness of it, right? Because the Kyosuke thing is, Falcons sort of inquiring what's the situation with him, when they were looking to make changes and looking to build a team with Nico coming in. And I feel like that's you doing your due diligence, man. I feel like that's what a lot of these teams should have been doing too, whether it's FaZe or Liquid or, well, not Navi, but, some of these teams that are maybe looking to make changes or looking for an upgrade, same way G2 plucked out Monacy out of the Navi Academy team, right? Because Navi had Simple on the roster and, Monacy wasn't going to go anywhere in that organization anytime soon. So for me, that's not they're putting Tessis and Dexter in the same boat. I don't think that at all, right? I think for Tessis, it would have been a different situation. And I'm pretty sure the team would have approached, whether it's Zonic or someone for management would have had a quick call with him or a quick meeting if they're there in person and just tell him, hey, listen, we're in no talks with anyone about your seat, right? I think Tessis definitely has what it takes skill-wise and, even game sense-wise and everything. I think he's fine. I think it's just about the mental side. That's the only thing, in a way, he needs to overcome. Because when he is playing confident, he's not only shooting well, but he's making proactive plays. He's getting good information for his team. He's just making plays that make sense and doesn't have to work every time. But when your players do that, you're going to be in positions to win games most of the time, right? I felt like it's only when he gets a little bit too nervous or when he starts playing not to lose instead of playing to win is when he struggles. But definitely he didn't feel like he had any pop-off games, but he was very, very consistent, medium to high output in terms of frags and important frags at different points. And yeah, I feel like he played a pretty good tournament.
Do you think Zonic, after like the first 2 days, was having a fucking panic attack? Do you think he was sat there and been like, not again, like another lineup that I bring in and it's just like come out and just looks like garbage for 2 days straight? He had to have gone to bed that night so worried.
I mean, bro, you and me know best, right?
Yeah, true.
In a way, right? I mean, when you go into a big project and, the aspirations are the biggest and then things are not working, not only are they not working, they're going horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's one thing to not win. You need time to get results and everything, but to get banged out as they did, not to win a single map. We're talking about Gamer Legion and complexity, all due respect to guys on those teams, but you have Magisk, Nico on your team, right? You as the coach as well. Like, that this just, it shouldn't be going like that. Even with everything, everyone can beat everyone nowadays and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm sure he wasn't feeling all too great about it, but props to him. I mean, we've heard it from the players in interviews. They had team talks constantly. He was trying to rally the troops. He was trying to imbue them with confidence. And sometimes all you need is a win or two, right? To get back on track, sort of, to remember that you don't suck. Like, you can actually be pretty good at the game. And it feels like when it's almost like, a dam broke after they were able to take down Pain.
Which is a funny place for that dam to break. As if like you were like, oh, fuck yeah, Pain. That's a scalp.
Yeah, and I think also... a lot of narratives, again, being talked about, oh, yeah, they're just going to, whatever, attend this tournament and not care. And m0NESY is coming in after the tournament, so whatever, you can see that they're not trying at all. Their heart's not in it. It's like, whoever thought that has no idea what they're talking about. Or, I guess, either doesn't follow any of the people involved or has no idea what it actually takes to win, man. It's hard to win in Counter-Strike, right? Yeah. Even just a single tournament like they did just now, let alone to achieve, and win as much as Zonic did, win as much as Magisk did. Even Nico, in the last couple of, winning Cologne and Katowice is not easy, and you don't get to that point where you win those tournaments by taking events off and slacking and anything along those lines. So those guys were giving it their all.
It also just took Apex 10 years to win Katowice or whatever it was, 11 years. Like that should be the first fucking sign for as many majors as he won like years ago even, and the teams he's been on, he's never been able to get a Katowice trophy.
Yeah, and I think and also okay, Dexter is going to leave, m0NESY is going to come in. We still have 5 out of the 6 people closely involved with the team the same, right? Like that's not m0NESY isn't a Magic sort of mulligan or some sort of he's a very good player, but if you have things fundamentally flawed with your team, he's not going to bail you out. Like, yeah, you might lose a little bit less here and there, but you're not going to...
He can't win you the fucking trophies, but he can make you look better than you are. Like, he can overcome some of them, but there's a limit to his fucking wizardry.
Exactly, and the same thing with Dexter. People expecting him to be sort of dejected and like... whatever, like hate having to play in this tournament, when he's going to be replaced. Again, you have no idea how pro Counter-Strike works. Like, if you think that attitude would have gotten him anywhere, no, it wouldn't. Like, this is also a guy who was going to be benched on that heroic team. So by the move to Falcons, even though m0NESY was, probably always going to arrive, like that gives him a new lease on life. That gives him an extra couple of months to sort of showcase what he's capable of. I mean, right? Gives him another chance.
If he didn't play himself into another contract, I don't know what the fuck you'd have to do. He did just get MVP of the whole event and won the trophy, and he was dominant. He's actually
a guy whose rating goes up against top 5 or top 10 teams, right? It's crazy. Like, he plays his best Counter-Strike in those games, and I'm sure, let's say if you're FaZe clan, you might be thinking about it, right? You're wondering why G2 didn't just get him, in the trade, right? Sort of, and something along those lines. You're wondering if maybe Team Liquid will think, well, Ultimate is not, growing. I don't know, right? But I think, not to mention the Russian teams, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I think he definitely, and he has some flaws, not maybe the best awareness at times.
Some poor decision making.
The supporting stuff isn't that great, but some of that stuff can be coached potentially, and at the end of the day, you can maybe build a little bit around that.
And you can't deny, like I've had plenty of my criticisms for Dexter, but even I'm at the point where I'm like, I just can't deny that he just gets kills. Like I don't know what to tell
exactly.
you. Like he gets double kills, he gets triple kills, he strings frags together. Like the guy just has impact built into him. So yeah, you can talk about all those details about it, and sure, there's some things you miss out on, but I mean, the fragging just feels like it far outweighs it.
That's sort of like missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
And those are the things that can be very frustrating for his teammates and the team at times, but you just live with it, right? Because the pros probably outweigh the cons in that sort of scenario. And listen, the way he's played in some of those big games, the only player who could replace him with that form is m0NESY, that they could realistically get. They cannot get Zaivu, I don't know who else, right? 9-10 is unavailable, right. Obviously, so...
There you are, 9-10, bringing him back.
but so it's unfortunate for Dexter, but it feels like at least he went out with a bang. Yeah, right? It's kind of wild that he didn't get the MVP trophy as well.
It's his first trophy, his first
ever. MVP.
That's sick. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be happier for him. That's sweet. And like I said, I would be amazed if he's not on a team. Like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. Can he still get into the major cycle? I imagine probably not at this point.
I think so. I mean, the Falcons, I don't know if he's a sub for Falcons. I imagine not.
Yeah.
But if not, then he's just not registered for any roster probably. And then he could be added, I think, in that May cutoff as a substitute. Or even now in April, I don't know if the submission for rosters was before the MRQ or after. In any case, he could still play at the major if a team.
And if not, he should. If he's not on a team when all the dust settles around the major, that'd be fucking insane. That'd be way too crazy.
Yeah, but exciting times for Falcons. Obviously, with the addition of m0NESY now to the worst kept secret, I guess.
Yep. Not even really a secret. Although I was laughing when I was prepping for the final because I messaged you and I was like, so this m0NESY shit is like done, right? Like we're going into this major final cast like expecting to like have the storyline be that this deal is done. He's going there. Am I gonna sound like a fucking moron if this gets canceled? Yeah. I don't know. It was a weird one because it was like official in 99% of the ways, except for the organizations actually confirming it. So it felt like very weird going into having the conversation in cast and on desks that the deal was just done. I was like, I don't know why we aren't just saying it's done.
Yeah, because, well, until the teams say it, you just can't, I don't know, feel maybe a little bit.
It just felt so silly.
Unprofessional or just kind of stupid to be like, take it as fact. But that's basically how we were phrasing it with that small caveat. For I don't know whatever reason, but yeah, I think for them, obviously can be very optimistic about the future with the Counter-Strike they've been playing, and now you add m0NESY to that, and obviously him and Nico being reunited. I think it's looking great for Falcons at the moment. But on the other side of things for G2, it's almost like everything we talked about feels like a coin flip, or actually, the complete opposite with G2.
I'm actually, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of surprised they made the final. I mean, they look good for most of the event outside of the final, but I don't know, man. When I watch them play, it's like I don't really see them. I feel like they do a lot more like just like grouped up like calls. Like they just like make a call and either it works or it doesn't. I feel like I don't see them work the map all that much. But look, I don't know. If you want to talk about positives, I like Heavy God. Heavy God was awesome this event. He took another step forward. Mob's obviously still struggling with some of the increased responsibility, but it looks like it's, in some areas it's getting better. I think it's still very inconsistent, so he needs a little bit more time with it. Hunter, I guess the same thing. It felt like he was having a really good event up until the grand finals, which was a bummer. So I don't know. This team, I think still it didn't give us anything new, and I think it just kind of reinforced some of the stuff that we already kind of thought, which is occasionally they're going to be dangerous, but I don't see them lifting trophies outside of events like this where, some of the top teams are missing and some of the other top teams go flat.
Did you see the tweet from the CEO of G2 and that statement, everything, the whole m0NESY thing?
Probably not.
I'll let you read. I'll let you find it while I just give my impressions about the final. And I agree with you with pretty much all the stuff you said. When you watch them play and, for example, in Bucharest, and I said this coming into the final, I don't think they were really tested up until the grand final, because they played Complexity 2 times, Rare Atom, Gamer Legion in their opening game, and then Virtus Pro, who was struggling at this tournament for some reason. But they never played, they didn't have to play Falcons or FaZe, who have, like experienced players, who have big game players, guys who are going to, know how to stop the things you like to do the most, teams that will know how to prepare against you. They didn't have to play like an Aurora or the Mongolz or anything like that,
Yep.
And their T side is just what works best for them is, first timing plays, right? Like the first thing that they try to do, whether it's a quick opening for someone or whether it's them grouping up, like if they can get to do that, not get blocked or something and proceed with that plan, it's like that's their best chance of winning the round.
Yeah.
But if that gets blocked or stopped and then they're forced to adjust in the mid round, like it does not look great. That's where they start to struggle to organize themselves. The timing seem off. The calls don't seem as great. Like they can play slower rounds, but slower rounds that are more set is where they have success. What I mean by that is, okay, they will do Mirage and they will throw, top mid window smoke, and then they will, one guy will go from underground, they'll re-smoke window, they'll smoke top con, right, molly con, make sure they've cleared all that, and then they'll do like a B split, and that's looks sort of, it's like a default with an ending on B, but you can pretty much call that round from freeze time as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the thing. When you talk about eye test and you're watching them playing, this is just looking a little bit, and it also sometimes feel like they have too many things in their playbook when you watch them play, because in a half of Mirage, they would do so many different things, but then it's doesn't feel as connected maybe, where it's you're not conditioning your opponent as much, you're just doing a lot of different things, which I guess makes you unpredictable, but also makes it harder for you to be consistent.
Yeah, and especially when I think I think sometimes it feels like with the play they're calling for that first timing is like the action away from that first timing is just like someone doing kind of like nothing, just kind of like twiddling their thumbs, like there's no, I don't know, it feels disconnected. Is this the tweet you were talking about? What a lovely day not to be on socials, need to wait for deadlines to talk.
No, it was after that. Rumors are true. It was like on Monday, Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go on about it. I'm going to find it. Yeah. I know is that.
Yeah, so that's the issue. I like Heavy God ended with most kills in the grand final somehow, even though they were banged out 3-0. I got to talk to him a little bit at this event and at Pro League, and he's just a great guy, man. He's awesome. He's a stud. He reminds me a little bit of Rain in the sense of he'll do whatever you ask him to. He's a great guy to be around. Definitely a net positive for the vibes as well. The vibe checks out with him, and it's just, skilled. This was his first grand final of a big event. He was a bit slow the first map, but all in all, just played really, really solid. And I think that's going to be a great pickup for G2 for the future.
I feel like he's like the main positive when I talk about G2 that I have to hold on to, because it's like the only thing positive I have to discuss is like I think he's awesome. He's great, and I think he's stepping up massively for this team, and early returns are awesome, and it's obviously a great decision for the future of G2 that he's in that jersey, and hopefully you're going to keep him there. But I mean, it's still at the end of the day, it can't possibly make up for losing Nico and m0NESY all within 5 months of each other. It's great. It's just like, good luck with what comes next, I guess. Like, let's see.
Yeah, but I think also that's what I wanted to touch on. I wanted to go a little bit deeper into this whole G2 stuff and m0NESY leaving and, some of the things that he maybe said or alluded to. But I remember, like, we finished the grand final and, I'm seeing this tweet from their CEO and he's saying, like, things like the way he's phrasing things,
Yeah, I'm reading it now.
We have decided to accept the trades of our young GOAT of CS. You didn't really have a choice. Ilya's contract ends in December of this year, and we decided to maximize our chance of rebuilding our team for the future with this trade instead of hoping for a last-minute turn of events. It's like, yeah, it's ending. He didn't want to extend it or re-sign for a very good reason, right? We'll get into that. And then when I saw him say this after 4 years of failing to lift CS trophies under the previous management, this roster and their staff have finally landed 6 trophies in the last 2 years for the G2 banner, including Cologne and Katowice, among others. Bro, this has just instantly triggered me because this is all you hear from politicians, right? Oh, it's all those guys. It's what, this is all left over. All the bad things that are happening now is because it's left over from those guys before. Or everything that's good, that's only us. That's only us that we've done that. Even though it was the previous management who built basically the team that won these events, or it assembled the core of this team, right? But it's just such a it's kind of crazy thing to say in this sort of a statement. And it was obvious that he was becoming a bit disconnected from the rest of the team due to his situation. And it was very difficult to have meaningful conversations with potential talents without the clarity around his future. Meaning, if people weren't sure he was going to be on G2, they didn't really want to come to G2 without NiKo and without m0NESY. And then it's the whole spiel about, they were doing it rebuilds in Valorant and League and whatnot. And I don't really follow those scenes. And then for me, Counter-Strike is different. And he said Counter-Strike will be no different. While the departures are oftentimes hard and some are even painful, we're looking forward to unleashing the full potential of a new roster. Right? So for me, there's multiple things here.
Yeah. Go on.
Right. First thing that, his contract ends in December. It's because he didn't want to extend. He didn't want to extend the contract because NiKo wasn't on the team anymore, and he saw how you handled, the whole situation with NiKo. And I think also when he said it was becoming a bit disconnected from the rest of the team, I think you can definitely see that NiKo and m0NESY think the same way about the game. In a way, like how, because a lot of the stuff m0NESY thinks he sort of learned from NiKo in a way, right? He was only a rookie when he joined. So I think they're on the same page about that. I think there was definitely, clashes within that G2 roster sometimes about how they were going to play or how to handle certain situations, scenarios, and whatnot. And, then after NiKo leaves, you get Heavy God, which is a good player, but you were unable to get Bit or someone who would have really clicked with m0NESY, and maybe you would have had an opportunity to keep him. But I think that then NiKo leaves, and then m0NESY is the only guy sort of, or at least he doesn't have NiKo anymore next to him to sort of fight those battles with him, and kind of has to, potentially play in a way that he isn't super thrilled about.
It's probably also, you look at the string of decisions that this management has made, from the JKS loss, from that roster change with the weird way that was handled, and then into the HooXi departure as well, with Nexa being brought in. I think if you're one of these players, and we saw m0NESY in the Banks's podcast kind of say, I didn't understand the JKS loss. HooXi was my favorite IGL. And I think if you're a star player who sees the game in a very specific way, especially with m0NESY and NiKo working so closely together, it's like, if you're making every decision that you've made with the roster, they disagree with, eventually they're just going to be like, what the fuck? Where's this team going? Why are we going this way? Why are these decisions being made? And that's got to be frustrating as well for those guys who are like, oh, now my favorite IGL I've ever played with is gone, and we've brought in someone who's not really an IGL, and I have to make do. And that just keeps adding more work onto their shoulders. I would imagine that's the way it feels. So I don't know. It's such a strange, it is kind of a strange message too. Cause also, why are you kind of giving him an elbow on the way out? It was clear he was becoming disconnected from the team. What does that say?
But what does that say about your organization and management? The two of your best players. Look at every single interview in the last 3, 4, 5 years of players who have been on the same team with NiKo. You don't hear anything but praise for the guy as a teammate, as a player, his work ethic, his approach, to the team, does whatever it takes to win, right? So it's like these guys who you sort of didn't want to, you could have, but you didn't want to keep them on your roster. And then you even when he made that tweet a couple of months before, it's like, why are you saying these things? This is not you, this is bad that this is your approach. I don't see where's the thought process in that? Because I can get that perhaps, let's say G2 is looking at the financials and and whatever, and they're saying we can't pay these guys, which would be pretty crazy because G2 is one of the biggest organizations out there. In every game that they aim to win championships, right? But let's say for a second that perhaps they feel like, oh, the way to win and our approach, what we want to do is not this having superstars and having the most firepower and be, what FaZe Clan was before or whatever. We want to try and take the Ents path. We want to try to take the old Ents. We want to try to take the Mouse path, where we don't have, we have the best team. We have very good people in the organization. We build a very strong culture. We have an academy team that brings up talent, and that's the way that we're going to climb our way.
But that's like looking at a fucking jigsaw puzzle that you have 80% of the way done, throwing it across the fucking room and saying, I want this puzzle to be about dogs instead. Look at the pieces you're working with. You have two of the best fucking players in the world on your team. Why would you want to work so hard to go away from building the team that lets them function the best and say, we want to go a completely different route against what our best players in the world want? Like that. It's crazy to me that you would want to have a strategy of that sense.
That's a very good analogy, by the way. But I'm not. I agree with you. I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate. But here's the problem with that sort of an approach. It doesn't happen overnight. Cyclone was the head coach of the academy team for a while, and those players that are now on his main team right before they made the switch to the main team. Then they were struggling for a while. Struggling. It took them a while to become that team, and they have still not become the best team in the world. They still haven't won the biggest trophies. They still haven't made even the final of a major or Katowice or Cologne. Right? Sure, there's a couple of pro leagues in there. There's final of Chengdu, some other events. Winning Cluj was probably their biggest success yet, and who knows, maybe this year they'll be able to get one of the ones that we discussed. But I don't think you have that at the moment in your organization. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I think if you are banking on Taz and Snacks or Taz plus one to sort of build you that, I haven't seen enough from G2 and the things that we've seen about their game where I'm confident that they have a guy for that, in the same way, I would be confident about Saw in Heroic, right? Or a different type of a coach.
Yeah, that was going to be my exact next point is what do all those teams have in common? Saw and Snappy work together very, very well to bring players up and get them involved in the system they wanted to play. Mal's with Cyclone, who's been with the core of that team for fucking 5 or 6 years now. Ash, who's able to do this with Gamer Legion, who's become one of the most well-respected coaches. You don't necessarily have the coaching staff and management structure to do that. You're rolling your dice in this route as well.
But I think G2 is just and I don't know, this is the problem with G2 as well. They have one GM, then the head of esports, then the head of FPS division. I don't know, there's so many people there, and I don't know who has the final say. And also, the CEO even said that, that was my decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Me. So you don't know, and I don't care. I don't care about blame, specifically or individually or whoever's fault it is, but just organizationally. Look, for example, this for a second, Jason. Think of this, right? So Nico's leaving 100%.
Yep.
m0NESY, you can sort of feel that you're going to lose him as well, right? You try to keep him, then it's just a matter of time. And also, G2 had to have sold him when they did, because if they weren't going to sell him before the major, Falcons were just going to wait out his contract, and he would have gone for free, right? So that's another thing in that whole situation. But let's say you see it coming, the whole m0NESY thing, and this is how your roster could have looked like if you just got ahead of it, right? So you could have gotten Shui once he was benched on Mouse, and I don't care what you think about Snacks and whatnot. You could have just gotten a younger IGL who's been with Mouse, so he has tier 1 experience, right? And I think would have been an upgrade over Snacks. You could have also jumped ahead and gotten Jambo before Fnatic had him. That's a bit more of a, question mark and a bit more risky. I was surprised they paid 600K for him. That's too much for me, right? But that's a guy who at the RMR and at the major played really well in high pressure games, seemed super calm. His body language on camera doesn't get too excited, just has that same sort of a level, which, you probably like. Also, think of how young their roster would be. Like, you would have Heavy God, Malbs, Shue, Jambo, and Hunter would be the one veteran. And that might have been your flaw in a way, that, the team is a little bit younger. But if you're trying to rebuild and build for the future, and then also, last but not least, you could have cashed out and maybe gotten Ash from the Gamer Legion and team him up with Shue again. Yeah. And that could have been G2 for this major cycle. That could have been your G2. Right? But instead, you're getting Hades. Okay, I know he's a stopgap solution, but come on. Just Polish IGL, Polish coach getting a Polish offer.
I don't mind Hades. I quite like Hades, and I think he can do some cool things. But I, too, even looked at this situation, and I was like, okay, another Polish player who's been coached by Cuban, probably had a little bit of call over to his old mate, got the word about what Hades is like, and pulled the trigger on that one.
And what now? Okay, Hades is gonna be replaced, I assume, most likely after the major. Now, let's say G2, with this amount of cash that they've accumulated from the Nico and m0NESY transfers, are looking to make some moves in the off season.
I mean, that has to be over $2 million, right? Like Nico and m0NESY.
Yeah, absolutely. But what kind of moves can you make? Especially with the way you've been playing and the way you've looked on the server and the Counter-Strike you've been displaying. Who's going to come to your team?
Yeah,
You need at least two guys, right, to come at the same time. Probably they wouldn't come without the other guy coming. You know what I mean? Like, the players you have on the roster outside of, if you remove Hades from the equation, the other four guys are not like super enticing for someone to change rosters, to get a FaZe player over, or maybe someone from, if these teams are going to make changes and shuffles again.
It won't be easy to attract him to their superstar, but you might be able to, if you were really trying to go this fucking like Ents route and Mao's route of like building up players and having this insane cohesion built up over a couple of years. A Jambo like player who has had a little bit of success but hasn't really established himself in his career, like a potential player, would be an option to go towards. I guess the most positive thing about where they currently sit right now is, let's just say they have $2 million in cash that they want to spend on players, and they're about to go into a major where we know there's always changes coming up. So you're at least going into a major. You have pretty flexible bank behind you. Yeah, you might not be as enticing as a prospect as other teams might be, but you go to the major, hope your team is playing well enough to help you out in conversations you're having with players and agents and organizations at the major itself.
Yeah,
I mean, that's all they have available to them now.
I know, but it just also, that's not necessarily the G2 way, even in other games, as far as I'm aware, like going with and then developing over years. And that's the thing as well, that, Nico and m0NESY are generational talents. That's why I said in my tweet, you can't develop someone into,
correct.
Nico. Those guys don't fall off trees, right? And
they just exist, and it's obvious.
It was very similar to, it was very, it was like the Luka trade in a way where, no, really, but when you're in a way, okay, so, but you don't see these. Yeah, I'm sure there's things you're unhappy with about this guy, but he's just a generational talent, right? You might have the first pick in the draft for next 10 years and not have a player like him be available, close. Right? Like it's just kind of wild that, we were talking about FaZe and Rops and Twists walking for free, but I mean, dude, even losing and not also phrasing it like not wanting to retain a guy like Nico, and then due to that also losing m0NESY. I mean, why was m0NESY's contract so close to expiring anyway? Why wasn't his contract like renewed
last year?
A year ago, right?
Well, that's
why wasn't he given a larger salary then?
I swear you and I had this conversation on this podcast a year ago after Dallas, after they won. It's like, now's the time. Go back to Nico and Monacy and sit them down and say, we want you guys here for the next 5 years. We want you guys to win your first majors in our jersey. And let's talk about the steps we need to take to do that in the future and where you want this team to go. And it shouldn't have been that hard, I feel like.
And I know there's the business side of things and maybe the budget and whatever. And well, how many sponsors do you think are going to, come next year for your CS division or something when you've also lost your biggest names?
Aren't Nico and Monacy two of the most marketable Counter-Strike players out there right now? Like, I don't know. It's all weird. And that's what this tweet reads like. I mean, I'm glad you called it like a fucking, so this is what politicians say, but it very much does read like a tweet of trying to like, get ahead of what he knows the criticism is going to be, to have like the excuses of like, look at what we've won 6 trophies in the last 2 years. So trust me a little bit. We had to do it this way. And it's like, yeah, we had to do it this way because we got to this point, which should have been avoided a year ago. And
also just to, end on having got Visari is a great pick. I think Mongolz is a really good player. You could see it while Nico was on the team. But
his struggles are the new expectations and the new responsibilities.
Yeah, exactly. And he needs to relax and everything. But that was the same problem with Huxi. Huxi wasn't replaced because he was a bad IGL or didn't work hard or anything. He was replaced because he was too emo. Like, he was too down on himself. He was too harsh on himself. Even though the team believed in him and everything, So at some point that becomes a problem. Like for Malbs, if he can't overcome that, just the mental obstacle, first and just having a little bit of a different approach about it all, then who knows if he is the long-term solution for them.
Yeah, he's going to have to, I mean, that's his struggle. I mean, he's talked about, he's even just kind of deleted and disconnected from social media a little bit to stay away from it. So he's obviously trying to do a couple things to get on top of it before he re-enters. But yeah, that's the struggle that he's going to have to deal with. Funnily enough, it's the struggle that Nico played with his whole career. He's always had those expectations on him too. So it's like, you better just learn to live with it and learn to deal with it and let it find a way to motivate you, or else you're in trouble. We should maybe touch on at Bucharest, might not be a long topic considering how they perform, but I mean, I think both of us were probably a little bit fucking surprised at how weak Aurora and the Mongolz felt.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're looking at all these teams, them and then 3D Max kind of right behind them as these teams that are national teams and don't have like huge names across the board, but have played good Counter-Strike and have their own kind of brand of Counter-Strike that makes them distinct in a way. And I thought Mongols are the main favorites to win the trophy.
Yeah, I did too.
But the problem is it almost felt like they were a little bit complacent, and they took it for granted a little bit. They were just going to waltz into the playoffs and then, see what happens there. And they were confident they could, in this playing field, lift the trophy. But just the loss to Apogee, right? Like that's the one that really was the killer for them, and they just haven't looked that sharp, really. They didn't seem like they had that edge.
I mean, I guess for me, I guess my biggest curiosity is like, I mean, I think coming into this event, I think something like this was it felt like it was bound to happen for Aurora. We don't need to dive into it, but obviously the conversation around them is just the insanity of the schedule, accepting every single event. So they've already been talking about it, and I know it's always like a crapshoot of how much you think it actually affects someone, but it felt like with them going to every single thing out there, this was bound to happen. I think it's something similar for Mongolz. I mean, you heard the interview from Blitz where he was just kind of like, yeah, we went back and kind of took like a week off after all the travels to reset, and I kind of wish my teammates had played the same amount of Counter-Strike that I had, because they just came in like looking rusty and individually just off. And so yeah, I think both those teams kind of just got caught at like a weird moment in the calendar where they're trying to find as much rest as possible before everything ramps back up leading into the major.
Yeah, probably. And that's why I'm willing to, especially for Aurora, they have 3 to 4 weeks off until their next event now. So I'm willing to give them this one sort of off and then see how they will look like at the end of the season with time to practice and everything. For Mongolz, I mean, it wouldn't be beyond the realm of imagination that they're just pretty content with where they are. Like making playoffs, being they're getting some of this prize money, sticker money, everything? Do they still have the hunger to do what it takes to keep improving and potentially, challenge for these tournaments? They're still one of the youngest lineups out there, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the main question for them is, how bad do you want it?
Yeah, or can you find a way, or if like it's, without knowing anything within the team really, but like maybe like, Blitz and Mara have to find a way to motivate the boys to want it. I mean, I know that because that is like a really big point of where, a team like this that probably never expected to be at this level. Yeah, there might actually be a level of which they're all just saying, this is fucking awesome. We're like a top 5 team in the world. We sort of made it. Let's kind of coast. Yeah, I would hope that's not the case. I think for where we are in the calendar, hitting rock bottom at an event like this for both of these teams, it obviously sucks now, but like if it's ever going to happen, I think now is a good time where you have this time off now. And when you come back, it's a mad dash to the major and you already know the fucking feeling of rock bottom. So, if you're the Mongols and you, like you're saying, like if we just assume they don't have that like hunger to be the fucking world dominating champions, which would be anti-Mongolian if you ask me. I think from there hitting rock bottom is a motivation of, I don't ever want to be fucking back here again. I don't ever want to be this embarrassed. I don't ever want to get knocked out in group stages again. Like I forgot what that felt like after the past 6 months. Now you have that reminder of this is what it's like to be at an event where you just fucking sucked. And hopefully that's a motivating factor of its own kind. Even if it's not for the trophy, it's avoiding sucking is a nice motivation too.
Yeah, avoiding sucking is a nice motivation, Jason. I can concur. But yeah, it's been back-to-back the events they've missed playoffs. So Melbourne, I think, in that regard is going to be very important for them. Gamer Legion making their first playoffs. Played some good Counter-Strike.
Yeah, but, they just got knocked out of the MRQ. They're no longer in the majors, so that fucking sucks.
Of course, it proceeds from your highest high to one of your lowest lows.
Oh, it sucks for Ash because there's so many cool stories around that team. Yeah. Ash, Rez.
We'll get into that a bit. Yeah. We'll touch on the MRQ, at least what's been going on so far. 3D Max, I was just shocked, bro, at their approach against FaZe. I mean, in the quarterfinal. I know they're a team that's very aggressive on CT and, just keeps coming at you and keeps sending bodies, but that looked ridiculous in their game against FaZe. I mean, they got 13-0 the first map, and they didn't change things much on Nuke either. Rain was saying after the game in the interview, we kind of knew what to expect from them. It wasn't very hard to prepare. Like, you can't be serious if that's how you're going to play in a player game, 3D Max. Like, I'm just hoping that they got beat so badly that they're going to, question their life choices, rethink everything, because they're not going to do anything with that sort of an approach.
That was really sad, especially because FaZe wasn't exactly looking like, the strongest fucking team in the world. Throughout this whole event, they looked extremely shaky. That's kind of gross. Hey, Complexity though. Is really cool. That was nice to see. We have Grim demonstrating the losing Elige as a teammate, effect, which just seems to be something.
Elige curse gone now from him.
Think about it now.
Afflicting Brokey.
Now it's spread. It's all over the place. It's now international as well. So good luck. Yeah, I mean, Grim, think about like him coming into Liquid. He was like the star player of his teams in like tier 2 NA, and then joins Liquid and has those spots kind of taken away from him, and just mentally gets tested by the team. Leaves that team, goes to Complexity. He's there alone, looking great, looking like a star player again. Elige gets cut from Liquid, joins Complexity, and Grim slowly over time just gets worse and worse and worse until he's back to just kind of being this, what are we doing here kind of a player. And then Elige leaves, and now he's incredible again. So like I've texted him after a certain point in this event, and I was like, just don't ever let Elige join your team ever again. That's just
sounds simple.
I know. Just don't ever let it happen ever again. Just say no and put your foot down.
And I think that's the big question for me for Complexity is, can him and Halzerk continue this? Yes. Right? Not necessarily the same highs, but they can't drop off now significantly. Yeah. They can't fall off significantly because they both had a great tournament. I think all players have had their moments. JT seems to be rejuvenated with
getting some of that frag and IGL back.
Yeah, getting some of those, getting into that Apex mindset in a way, right? So for them being able to take down FaZe, being very close to beating G2. I mean, remembering how they looked at the start of the season in Katowice, at Bounty, and I think Cluj as well.
They didn't win their first game until the Cluj groups.
Yeah, it was looking pretty grim. So, yeah, that was a great turnaround for them. FaZe Clan on the other side, I mean, I don't know. It was like they looked better in a way, but then also they lost to Astralis and Complexity. Okay, then in the quarterfinal easily disposed of 3D Max, and then they go on to lose to Falcons, who end up winning the tournament. But they were too slow to get started in that Falcons game. I mean, they were down 11-5, 11-6, something along those lines when the Kerrigan Tech 9 round happens, and they bring it all the way back, and it's just, you almost wish they lost convincingly so that it would prompt them to maybe make a change or to do something, right? You feel like, especially how Brocky played on Mirage against Falcons, I mean, he couldn't hit a barn.
Oh, dude, that was bad.
Unfortunately, because he had a good tournament, right? So then you might just look at it and like, well, you know, Brocky will say, if I just wasn't a bot, you know, we would have won that game easily, and then they would have been in the finals against G2 where they would have been favored. So it feels kind of hard still to evaluate FaZe at this moment because they've looked good. The eye test was good for them, right? Like the T sides from Kerrigan and stuff, it looked good. Just couldn't win pistols, or they would win pistol, lose second round. Just they were plagued by bad starts.
Yeah, that was an issue. I don't know. I don't know what to say about FaZe at this point. To be completely honest with you, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Frozen looked really good at points. I don't know if they don't fix this. I mean, here's the reality. What we're seeing right now is a team that the individuals are all inconsistent because it feels like there's still a lot of questions that haven't been resolved and not everyone's comfortable with the resolution yet across the team. So we're going to see some events where Frozen pops off for like 5-6 games in a row and then goes cold, and Brokey pops off for 1 or 2 games and then goes cold, and same with Rain, same for Elige. I guess for them, the goal is just like we have to nail it down and find that consistency at whatever level we can get to by the time the major rolls around. So for me, it's like everything just gets judged at the major. Does this work or not? But certainly, I think there's a lot of red flags when I watch FaZe that like something is not right at all.
Yeah, and Astralis, who beats them in the first game and then goes on to lose to Apogee, and they miss out on the playoffs as well at the very end.
Yeah.
Who did they get beat by? Gamer Legion?
They got beat by Virtus Pro at the end. Astralis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. They lost to Virtus Pro, Apogee, and 3D Max across the event.
Yeah, like that's also, you expect the names to do more, but also once you get around to the MRQ.
They're playing right now. They're playing against Big. They're down a map. They lost 13-11 on map 1.
Yeah, if they lose that, they're out. And even if they win that, they have to win like 2 more games or something. Yeah, it's crazy. But just the last couple of teams, I guess Astralis, I don't know, just really, it's just disappointing. It's still not looking that great for them. Watching KD anchoring B on Mirage with a rifle is just painful.
When this lineup came together, there was like 8 different gambles, and I think every single one went against them. Like when you bring Cadian in as an IGL and then tell him he's going to do it without the op, which is where like really the only success he's had in his career has come from. That feels fucking crazy. You're also taking Device off the in-game leading position, which he's been in, so there's question marks there. You're reuniting Cadian with Stown and Yabi after all the drama that went down, and no matter what the players say, who knows how easy that situation is to re-trigger. And obviously we haven't heard any word of any relationships blowing up, but like every gamble, every big risk of like where you need to see the improvement with that roster change has gone against them, and you've seen it back off.
Yeah, that's why when they announced Cadian coming, you could have just had Hooksy, guys. You could have just gotten Hooksy.
I know.
And I don't know what the fuck has this guy done in the Danish scene, man, that he's marred or plagued by, that no one wants to pick him up, but he would have been the role that you need. He's played with Yabi before. Right, I mean, he's won big tournaments, in-game leading, right? All this stuff, like the resume is there, and then you're just going out of your way to bring Cadian back. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know how Astralis is like running if they miss another major. It's crazy.
Yeah, that'd be 5 in a row. Yeah, the last one was Antwerp that they were at. So
holy shit. Man.
Yeah,
that'd
3
be years.
That'd be really fucking bad.
Imagine telling that to someone in 2019
I know.
or 2018.
I know. It's sad though. Like honestly, like as much as it has become fun over the years trashing on Astralis, like it's not healthy for the scene or the game if an organization of that pedigree eventually just kind of drops out and dies, or like can no longer sustain itself into the future. Now, self-inflicted, they've made some pretty fucking piss poor GMing decisions over the years. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It would just be weird.
Yeah. What about your boys in Liquid?
That's another one that's just going to be judged on the major. They just brought a new IGL. I mean, I'll say 2 things. I'm not ready to like completely judge it off of what we saw at Bucharest. What we saw at Bucharest was obviously not good and not a whole lot to be excited about. But it is very early. I know they had 10 days, essentially with Shuhei leading into the event. They need more time to truly see what this is going to become.
Yeah, I think obviously would have liked them to have won a game, but
yeah.
In reality, I know that they played Legacy in the first game, and for me, Legacy looked the best out of any of the Brazilian teams. FURIA or Pain. I think they were a little bit unfortunate in some of their games. They lose 2-1 to Gamer Legion. They lose 2-1 to Astralis. They had to play Aurora. They got 2-0. And this all after 2-0ing Liquid, right? Lux in the IGLing role looks solid. Like the way they've been playing, some of the mid rounds have been really good, which is kind of wild. Dumao and Lato showing some of those flashes. Still prospects, even 4 years after their first major that they played over in Godsend. But yeah, I almost feel bad for Legacy. They couldn't win at least one more game just for the VRS points, because I feel like the level of play and the eye test tells, for me, I felt like they've earned it. But I know it's going to feel shitty that they didn't, but I think they could definitely be happy with how they've played, right? And if they can continue that, I think they can make the major and sure. Keep trending upwards.
Hopefully, yeah. I want to say one more thing about Liquid. I think this next 2 months for them is in the major, obviously, is going to be critically important, but I think they're going to be in one of those weird they might be in one of those weird GM situations too, where it's where do we go from here? You have NAF who's struggling, and PGL showed no sign of him breaking out of that funk. Ultimate, you're really not sure yet on his bounce back, if he's going to be a long-term solution, if he's still showing enough improvement to warrant you giving him more time. And then you have Shuhei here on a loan, which is obviously nice for Liquid, considering the way the last time they took a chance on an IGL and KD and worked out and they had to switch over to Twist. But equally, it's kind of nice for Shuhei in the sense of he gets to choose as well if this is where he wants to end up after the loan. He can say, you know what, the major's over. There's these 3 teams looking for an IGL as well. I want to try one of them. I want to test the waters over with these guys and see if there's any interest. If you're Liquid, you're kind of playing to see if you have an IGL you want to keep for the future, but also you have to play well enough to where he's going to want to stay for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were a couple of concerns to me, regardless of, little time to practice and everything. One of them was some of the CT side play wasn't something you'd come to expect from a team full of veteran players. I mean, handling rounds with advantages, the constant re-aggression all the goddamn time, man. It's you guys are in a 4v3.
I know, just chill.
And they only have ramp, on nuke, they have to come down B to you, and then you have 2 guys walking up ramp to re-clear. One player is holding and gets both kills.
I know exactly what Ryan
was against
about.
Legacy, right? Yeah. It's come on, man. What are you guys doing? So that's worse, and that's been a bit of a problem for them, even with previous iterations of the roster. And then also this thing was a little bit strange. I don't know if it was even you who said that, where Shu is saying, "Oh yeah, Twist told me I may call the calls. I'm the boss." It's why are you asking it? Why does he even right? It was surprising to see them play Anubis 2 times, which Shui hasn't played on mouse.
Yeah,
right. I can get it. It's a bit tricky because Liquid felt really good on the map, and maybe you just want to, at this first event, sort of just give Shui a taste of how it feels like on the map and how you want to go about it. If you don't care about the result too much, you know it was going to be hard to go deep anyways. But yeah, obviously they deserve more time, but they'll have to pick it up soon, right? There's not that much time before the major.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, you can say that all, like, you know, yeah, like this event kind of like we didn't expect great things, but I think losing to Legacy is like, especially 13-4 on Nuke is like, that can't happen. Like, I don't care what state your team is in with these players, with your experience, like that can't really be a thing. You know, Virtus Pro, who's been looking better, the Mongolz, who are a top 5 team, relatively understandable. But I think Legacy was like one that for me was sort of like, I know you're big on them, but for me, I'm just like that shouldn't be, considering where Liquid has been for a while and how much they've been able to contend, even as recently as Pro League. You know, beating Eternal Fire, beating 3D Max as well. Like, I don't know, that one was disappointing. But yeah, it comes down to, there's a lot of factors, and I don't really care to assess them super closely until I see what they look like at the major. You know?
Yeah. I feel you. All right, that feels like
Bucharest.
Bucharest covered. Now is it starting to come back, Jason?
A little bit, yeah. Actually, that jogged the memory quite nice. It's starting to feel good. I'm feeling loose. It was like I was stretching.
All right, let's check out some of this MRQ stuff.
Well, it's Gamer Legion is out. Who else got eliminated?
Fnatic is out.
Fnatic is out, man.
After bringing over Jambo for 600K.
Not a great investment there.
Also, I think this is just karma for benching krimz, man. Sort of like saying, Borb will be a stand-in for the MRQ. I mean, was it ever like... Boris, let me see this. I don't
know. I feel like...
Okay, krimz is set to step back from the squad due to personal reasons.
So is that like one of those nice PR things where it's like krimz doesn't want to play for this team any longer? Or is that kind of like the first step of, okay, krimz is pretty much going to retire?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, either things have deteriorated in the team and he doesn't agree with the approach to playing the game with, Fear or whoever, that he just can't be bothered to pretend or play on the team anymore.
Yeah.
Or something has happened, personally, that he can't play and might retire. I just don't, krimz doesn't just feel a guy that would bail on the team, before the MRQ without a really, really good reason, right? I feel like even if he was unhappy with, whatever the approach or the direction the team was going, he would have stuck it out, at least for a while.
Yeah, and also, I mean, he's always been someone who kind of has not really shied away from the light and the publicity. So, like, it's always been kind of hard to get a read on exactly what his thoughts are on these things. So, but I mean, this one just came out of left field. It feels like it came out so suddenly. Like, this happened. I think I saw the news on like my travel day, like between flights, and it's just like all a fucking haze. And then I landed. He's just gone. Yeah, I don't know, because the way I think about it too is also, it's not like he's been killing it lately. So if his idea is, I don't want to play for this team, I want to find another organization to give it one last go. Like, I don't know where he's going to be sought after. I think he might just be done.
Oh yeah.
Feels like the most logical thing.
It does. Like, it does feel like, I mean, who knows? Maybe he goes to the major with Metasport, Jason. The first full Swedish lineup to make the major since NIP in 2019.
Revitalize the region.
NIP, Jason, I need to check.
When the last major was?
NIP? Who played for NIP in 2019 at the major? It was still, of course, Forest and Get-Right, and Rez, and Golden and Lekro. So Forest and Get-Right were on the NIP lineup the last time a full Swedish major made it to the full Swedish lineup made it to the major. Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense.
So that's crazy, and I think also, man, just again, NIP as an org, it's just so funny, isn't it?
I know. It's like, but it's also like the Astralis one, where it's like, it has gotten funny, but at the same time, you are kind of like a household name in Counter-Strike, and this feels sad.
Like, they didn't even make it to the MRQ, right? They weren't high enough in the rankings to get invited. They went full international. Meanwhile, I think Adam was on the Young Ninjas lineup. Plopsky was on NIP. Hampus was on NIP. So you have three guys that were there. Was Isak there for a little bit after? Yeah, Isak was there. He went from Gamer Legion to NIP for like 6 months. So 4 out of the 5 guys were actually on NIP at some point. Not to talk about other players, in other teams. Obviously, Brolan is the easy one, but there's so many different names. ZTR on Game Legion, okay, not going to be at the major, but he's doing a good job with Gamer Legion. LNZ, right, on Heroic. They've also made it. They were one of the first teams to make it alongside OG, and it's just funny, like, seeing it happen one more time,
Yeah. Okay, well, here are the teams that are in so far to stage 1 of the Austin Major through the European MRQ. Heroic, OG, Metasport, BetBoom, which is Boomich, Zorzi, Exile, Syra, and Magnayez, and my favorite, Namiga is the final team in there. And then Gamer Legion, Fnatic, BC Game, Paravision, and 500 all got eliminated.
Yeah, Gamer Legion, obviously the big shocker, right? The main one, because they've been so good when it came to the major circuit. They just made the playoffs in Bucharest. First time they did that at an event of that stature. And I wonder how much it hurt them not having Ash there, man. Ash, coaches can't be in the room with the players because all the fucking shenanigans and the cheating that was happening with all these different bugs and scandals and whatnot. Yep. So for such a young team, I mean, and a team that doesn't have too many veterans on the lineup, I think that was a big loss for them. And, how... God, I don't want to swear too much, for all the kids out there. But how ridiculous is it that in the year of our Lord, 2025, MR12 online Counter-Strike, we're playing best of ones in the major qualifier, man. Like, shame on you, Valve. Shame on you. Seriously, like, what's preventing you? The calendar? Like, who cares? Add one more day to it. Other people will have to manage. Like, it's online. There's no costs for the TOs, for the production, or at least they're minuscule compared to the whole thing. Is like, it's crazy that you could play 2 best of, and this is also the problem. If you lose 2 games because there's only 6 spots, right? There's only 1 spot left if you lost 2 games, right? There's not 8 spots, there's 6 spots. So all these teams that are playing in the 2-2 games, like, they'll have to play at least 1 more, and 1 team will have to play 2 more games, right? Like, 6 teams are basically, I've very overcomplicated this, but the 6 remaining teams are playing for 1 slot, not 3 slots, right? So you lose 2 best of ones, and all of a sudden, right, you could be your road becomes you could have to win 4 or 5 best of 3s maybe to get that 1 last slot. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just ridiculous. There's nothing that justifies it anymore. Not with MR12. Right, the games aren't even that long. The best of 3s, right? Like, so you could do 4 best of 3s a day, no problem. We've seen it done multiple times. PGL, bro, we would be done at like 7-8 p.m. local with 4 best of 3s, even in the rolling schedule. So I think that's just ridiculous.
Actually, with a rolling schedule, you could probably do 5 best of 3s if you really wanted to get crazy.
If you really wanted to get crazy, you could pull it off.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't have anything to add on to that. It's immensely stupid. It's so stupid that I don't even feel like I need to justify it with anything. It's just.
So yeah, it was a little bit surprising how dominant Nemiga was. Sure, they've shown up here and there, had some good results here and there, but I think some of their wins were pretty.
13-3 over Big, 13-11 over Big in that series.
Yeah, there were some convincing wins in there. BetBoom managed to grind out. They had the best one against Fnatic, managed to win it in OT. Fnatic lost to Gamer Legion and BetBoom in the best of ones.
Ugh.
They beat... Wait, what? They lost to BC Game. Oh, no, they beat Gamer Legion. Okay, so they lost to BC Game 13-2. They beat Gamer Legion. Then they lose to BetBoom in the 1-1 game, and then they lost to Ents today in the 1-2 game.
Tell you what, BC Game could have used that sticker money.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Bleed, just under a different name. Yeah, but it's...
The Americas side is going on too. That started yesterday, and I know the big thing in the Americas one was like talking about Complexity, who had to play on Sunday for the fourth place decider, fly home Monday, and then play. I think it was like Tuesday early afternoon, their first game, which they squeaked out a win over Getting Info, which is Carson, Fang, Shane, Markey, Dia. But they're now playing later on today in a couple hours, an hour and a half. If they win that, they're through to stage 1, which is cool. The Group B bracket in the Americas is probably the more interesting one, all things together, because Wildcard is down there with Nouns and NRG. Wildcard and NRG play for a spot in stage 1 in the next round. Have you followed, this is VRS shit, so it kind of gets a little complicated, but did you follow the whole wildcard thing?
Yeah, I did.
That one's still confusing to me. I know it has a lot of people, like I know Swisher made a big post about it earlier today about like the like finding the little loophole of bringing in a stand-in. I don't know like the rules with all details, so I don't want to, get too harsh on anything either way, because it gets complicated with how rules are executed and which region they get assigned to for the MRQ. But it obviously, at the end of the day, no matter what, they did kind of find like a little loophole to rat themselves into the Americas one. Not that I don't blame them, because why not? But it is something that needs to get fixed in the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those like details where it is a little bit confusing to me, even because you look at teams in these split of players, right? If there's 2 European, 2 American, and 1 Asian player, is like, well, then they've changed the rules, meaning that you go where the more slots are. Yes. I don't know, but yeah. I see where Swisher is coming from, and I think these rules get updated all the time to try to shut down some of these loopholes, but whether it will ever be perfect, I'm not so sure, because unless you do something where you force the teams to have 3 players from that region, right, which then you're influencing how you build the roster as well, like it's very difficult. It seems pretty difficult to sort of build a foolproof rule, right? If you can always have 2-1, and then there's some details that decide like where you play or whatnot. I mean,
I've kind of a question for you, I guess, this would be on like a more philosophical level, looking at this scenario, because the way it sort of works out with wildcard is, one of the Europeans, one of their non-Americans, I should say, I guess, has lived in NA for 7 years, even before he was competing in Counter-Strike. The other 2 guys have lived in NA for a year. Do you put any like stock in that, where it's like, yeah, it's technically kind of a weird thing since they're European, but these are guys who have been playing within the region at the very least for a long time?
Yeah, I think that's strange, but I don't see how you police that. Right?
Yeah, I know. It's like extenuating circumstances that might be positive in their benefit, but I don't know how you can really judge that in every case equally.
Yeah, because the guy has a passport of a country, right? I mean, I think it might be something that you have in like sports, where once you declare that you're, gonna represent this country or play for this country, you can't change it, right?
Yeah.
So if you say, oh yeah, I'm German because I was born in Germany and that's like who I represent, then it's that. But if you decide, because you spent, let's say, your adult life in the United States and you stayed there and now you live there, and you say, well, I choose to represent the United States because I feel more like that, then that's it. And that's how it's set.
Okay. Interesting.
But it doesn't, it doesn't feel like it was as much of an exploit, or that they were doing it necessarily like on purpose, that just their kind of roster. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those VRS things where probably neither you or me are informed enough to make educated opinions, and we just shoot in the dark.
I feel like I was informed like 2 hours ago when I looked into it, and all like the different rules that get triggered at which stage of like the stand-in situation, when the invite was sent out. But like 2 hours later, I can't repeat it off the top of my fucking head. So yeah, I don't know. Probably a situation that I would imagine Valve has made a note of. Whether anything comes of it or changes, I have no idea. But I imagine it's something that they're going to look at, or will most definitely be brought to their attention by teams and players and organizations looking for clarification in the future, for sure. What else has been going on? I don't think there's any, I mean, that's kind of the MRQs. Hasn't been any crazy news. All of it has just been around the Monacy and the roster changes and now teams getting eliminated from majors.
Yeah, I'm looking into that as well. I mean, we'll cover Melbourne, I guess, before.
Yeah, you guys will recap the MRQs once they're done. You guys will hit Melbourne beforehand.
There was the one in, just the one with, from PGL and FURIA. And FURIA bench chelo and bring in
oh, that's right.
A Kazakhstani.
Yeah.
How old is he? Molodoy, 20-year-old Opper. Yeah, and that's how they're going to hit the major. I mean, it's interesting. Let's see. His name was floated as one of the talented, up-and-coming Oppers from the CIS region.
Yeah.
So, Fallen probably feeling like they need more output in that role and that maybe he should just focus on IGLing. Although for me, it was always, I felt he played the best when he was opping IGLing, and he IGL'd the best when he was opping in addition to that. So, gonna have to wait and see.
I remember when you gave me that advice when I called to ask about Fallen when we were going to pick him up for Liquid, and yeah, you said that exact thing. I don't know. If someone
you ended up having Stewie as the IGL.
Well, we tried. We tried to make that conversion. There were a lot of people that you had to try and make happy on that team that you couldn't make happy.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I guess if anyone's going to do it, I feel like Fallen. I don't know. His rifle isn't terrible. I think FURIA is one of those teams that have kind of like worked themselves into a box as well, like where they've missed the opportunity to pick up young talent, and now it's kind of like if you wanted to go and pry any of those IGLs away, would you be able to do it considering they might actually have a better team than you? So I think the next couple months in the major are going to be important for FURIA to be able to attract talent if they even want to go that route. I think the weirdest thing about this pickup to me isn't necessarily Fallen giving up the op for this young kid. It's also you're now making the decision to go communicate in English. Didn't you hate that earlier when you tried it? Didn't it really not work out for anyone?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just strange, man. It's also these Brazilian teams, we'll never have a Brazilian super team ever again, it feels like. I don't know, the contracts and everything. Was it them? It was FURIA and Payne in the race for DGT, apparently, and then Payne beat them on it, and I guess he's going to be announced, I don't know when, as the fifth for Payne instead of who they have now. But so you didn't get the rifle you wanted, and you decided to go with the Opper from Kazakhstan and change things even more with, what is it, less than 2 months before the major starts. I don't know. We'll see. It still feels like these Brazil teams will keep being irrelevant.
All you can hope for, I feel like the best you can hope for is that this guy has that Dexter quality, because he's going to make some mistakes in terms of decision making and game sense and assessing the situation, but you just better hope that he frags out. You better hope that he just gets you some crazy rounds with the AWP, like a nuts triple kill, a good clutch. You just need him to at least frag, because the mistakes are going to come in, and that feels like the best. And I don't think that's enough to elevate this team quite yet. Probably one more roster change, but I don't know. Does this indicate in the future that now if they want to make a roster change, they don't have to do it within Brazil? Is their next roster change?
Why not?
Yeah, it kind of has to, but. That's a realization that I feel like most orgs made 3, 4, 5 years ago versus it feels like they're late to the party. Although I guess better late than never is as the saying goes.
I don't know. Brazilians usually not late to parties, but this case
usually right on fucking time.
It's a little bit different. All right.
Cool.
That's fair enough. Let's go hate watch Astralis now.
Beautiful. Peace.
See ya.